Hello, everyone. Today's live stream. Let me put on a light here. Right. Sorry for the late notice of the stream today. I took a nap accidentally, um, but here we are. So we'll finish out the Smith today. But as always, if you are new to the stream, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Uh, if you would like to see more of my work, you can check out my Instagram, justwondering.brad on Instagram. And if you want to support the stream, purchase any of the flies that you see me tie here, you can go over to my Etsy shop, Studio1213. Wow, I am still waking up. um, yeah, and all of the money from the Etsy shop comes back to the stream, the channel, to upgrade, the technology, like the microphone here that I've got, and the cameras. Uh, Hopefully, I've been saving up. Uh, yeah, just a word about that. I've been saving up some of those monies that have been coming in because um, in the near future, not soon, but in the near future, we will be moving hopefully to a townhome with a little bit more space, and hopefully I'll have like a proper studio to film in. Be able to have good lighting, a proper lighting setup, a slightly less cluttered background, and such. So yeah, no new technology upgrades like right now, but once we get into a place with a little bit more space, gonna hopefully be able to expand out a little bit more. Probably invest in another couple of cameras, so maybe we can do some multi-angle type streaming, video editing software, that sort of thing. Right now, it's just not worth it because the space is just so small. Um, can't really like even to stream. Um, I have to take down my setup every single time, and my setup right now is literally just the device, the camera, and the microphone. And I have to take those three things apart every time I want to stream, simply because there's not enough space to leave them up. Um, you know, my workstation's like right here, which is why you can see like the snack bag. um, and so yeah, once we get a little bit more space, then I'll be able to leave things up permanently, and that will really help because then I can do a few more neat things. Um, Better lighting, and again, hopefully more camera angles. I know like this one works okay. Certainly having the tight focus available does make it a little bit easier for you all to see it, but it's still not quite ideal. So I would love to be able to do like an overhead camera, um, and maybe a camera from the side, from the front. Um, but yeah, and if you have any ideas for camera angles, let me know. Be happy to try and accommodate. And yeah, we'll see what we can do. But like I said, near future, but not soon. All right, so let's get into it today. We're doing the Smith by Turnbull for the River Tay, as described in Kelson. Let's get started. Let's zoom in. Yeah, stuff on my shirt. Don't look. All right. Now, the underwing. So as last week we did the body, and This week, as always, doing the wing. And again, as always, switching my thread color from white to black. So I do white for the underbody and the body work, and that's just because if I'm doing silks, you can see the thread, a darker thread through some silk colors like yellow, pale blue. Um, so I just habitually use white thread to do body work, and then at the head I switch to black. Um, Now the underwing is golden pheasant spear feathers, two of them back to back. And what as always, again as always, what I'm doing is I'm building up a little bit of extra bulk at the head, so that when I put the underwing on, it can lay as flat as possible against the body. I have a couple of spear feathers that I've already, well, sort of prepped. They're not quite ready. The thing about spear feathers is that they are, in my experience, very brittle feathers. So they do tend to do things like tear easily. So I don't have very many of these, so as you can see, they're pretty slim. They're pretty slim feathers, so uh, they don't have too much of an impact visually. You can't see them in the finished photo, which is good. All right. Now the wing is red, yellow, and blue dyed swan, which of course we're using turkey, um, and pale or light mottled turkey, which we are going to be using this royal palm turkey. So my usual. And some Cory Bustard. And unlike normal, again, because I just woke up from a nap, I have not pre-married the wing, which is fine because it's a fairly simple wing. It's only 5 components. So let's see. How do we want to marry it today? Let's see. So I want to do five. Um, yeah, 5 barbs or 5 fibers of each thing. So that gives me 25 barbs in the wing total. For those of you who are counting. Let's see. Is this blue, red? let's see. So since I have 5 fibers, I think what I'm gonna do is I'll do the I'll what I'll do is I'll do the wing twice essentially. So there's no now normally I prefer to put a large chunk of some neutral color on top, but because this is a kind of a sparse fly in terms of parts, there's jungle cock cheeks and a topping, and that's it. So there's the underwing, wing, um, jungle cock, and topping. I'm not going to worry too much about putting a big chunk of neutral of a neutral color on top. So we'll just do the wing. So we'll do two slips. So we'll go or 2 fibers. So we'll go two 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 three 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 three, and that should actually look good. Nice bit of complexity without being actually too complex to marry up. Um, that should. And again, always marry up one wing. So I'm going to marry up the wing that's nearest to me, the near wing. See if I like it. If I don't like it, then I haven't wasted time marrying up 2 wings that are exactly the same that I don't need to tear down and remarry again. Easy trick, time saver. And as always, you marry the 2 full slips together, and then you just peel off whatever you don't need. For the colors, I'm going to go blue, yellow, red. Red's a nice bright color. It'll stand out on top of the wing, no matter what we put over it. I guess normally my inclination is to put blue on top, just because it's a cool color. And if you kind of think like bait fish tend to have blue or black on top, but and I tend to kind of I think I've talked about this before on stream actually about how we're not entirely certain like what salmon flies were like supposed to be imitating, if anything. Obviously, there are today what we would call attractor patterns, but whether such distinction was made at the time that classic Atlantic salmon flies were, quote, invented, they weren't really invented. They kind of just developed. Um, I tend to, from an aesthetic standpoint, I tend to think of classic Atlantic salmon flies as kind of being bait fish type attractors. And so whenever I get so one of the reasons why I put a large strip of neutral on top is when it looks good, it kind of bookends the wing, but then you also get like this strip of a dark color on top. Um, and so also in that kind of similar vein, whenever I have the color blue in the wing, I also just tend to put the blue at the top for that same reason. But again, because there is going to be no neutral color going at the top on this wing, just because of the way there's just not there's so few components and there's no golden pheasant tail in the wing. Um, we'll put red at the top just because it's a nice bold color. Also, it'll stand out. It won't get covered up. Just building the wing. So I think that looks pretty attractive. Um, and again, so you see how the butt ends here are a little bit of all different varying lengths. Just going to trim them down so that they are all kind of similar. That just helps when tying it in because then you don't get the effect of having like all those different kind of lengthed butt ends, getting in the way as you wrap thread and that sort of thing. All right, I like that. Looks good. Kind of reminds me of the nationalist Chinese flag from like the warlord period. Sorry, that's a rather obscure historical reference. All right, let's marry up this other side. Let's see. How many? I think there's six here, but that's all right. We can cut that down as we go. This one. All right, so I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I cut 5 fibers, but there's one fiber that terminates like right here. That is something to watch out for. I mean, natural materials and all that. Uh, let's see, how many does that leave me? 4. Because I'm a little bit of a miser when it comes to materials. I'm just gonna marry. So all I did is I married that cut strip back into the feather. I'll just cut one more. All right. Yellow and blue. I have to keep checking blue because this side of the feather has no. So this side of the feather, um, something that probably comes up every now and then, but you can see that this side of the feather here has a bit of recurve. Even though these fibers are nice and long, basically they slope down and then they kind of curl back up at the tips. That makes them a little bit harder to work with in a wing. This side here, shorter fibers, but no recurve. That'd be the side I prefer to work on, but I'm just checking to make sure that the fibers are actually long enough to be in the wing. They are, so we'll use them. Okay. Same procedure. Marrying up the swing. And separate out the fibers that I want to save for later. One of those fibers were stuck together there. A little bit weird. Trim that. Yeah. It's a very warm and humid day here, which brings up the topic of care for your flies. Care for the Atlantic salmon flies. And the thing is like if you live anywhere that has any kind of humidity, um, your flies can change over time. The wings will shift. Um, any crests which you have straightened will can not necessarily will, but they can return to kind of their unstraightened state. If you have done any kind of crimping to say like tippets or any materials which you've tied on that needed like a slight crimp to straighten them out or anything, they can, depending on the severity of the crimp, they can come out if it's humid enough. You know, one of the tools that we use to say straighten feathers, that are very crooked is steam. Obviously, humidity, environmental humidity, is just a lower intensity form of that, and so caring for these flies is can be challenging if you live in very humid places, such as oops, parts of the South, um, even like like the Pacific Northwest, where it's like sure it can get warm, you have to run the air conditioning, but like the rest of the year, it's cool enough to have your windows open, but it can also be very humid. Um, there we go. There's the air conditioning. But so when it comes to like caring for your collection of flies, my suggestion always is try to reduce the humidity as much as possible, and then also keep them out of the sunlight. Keep them out of direct sunlight, because like any other dyed material, the dyes will fade if exposed to UV light on a consistent basis. So um, the best thing to do is put them in a frame, um, and then just keep that frame out of the light. Keep it in an air conditioned room. I actually, because of the number of different things that I have for collections and things, feathers. I actually have a dehumidifier that I run in the room in the office. That's always useful, and yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing particularly intense or specific. It's just a little bit of care and just managing things like sunlight. All right, so we have the two wings all married up, and see how they look. Now the far wing, I just have to remember, does seem to be a little bit shorter than the near wing, so that may play a role in time. Hopefully not. Uh, let's see. It's always going to use a little bit of saliva just to dampen the tie-on area. That just helps soften fibers. And again, um, when tying on a wing, a married wing like this, remember the tendency is for the wing to squish top and bottom, and the goal is to have it compress only from the top. So I'm holding on either side of the thread, and I'm just going to lift the butt ends like this to compress it from the top and not bottom, like so. Another soft loop, just to be a little bit more secure, a little bit more compression, and I'm going to pinch it real hard here, right at the tie-in point, and pull on the thread just to tighten it down. So by pinching it here, what I'm doing is um, I'm preventing the wing from, as it compresses. The tendency is, if you don't pinch it, it's going to want to bow out like this, right? So flatten down, material is going to want to squirt out the side. You actually just want the materials to collapse vertically. Um, and so by putting pressure on the side of the wing as you tighten it down, then you prevent the material from going this way and just switch that way. All right, need some tying wax. Gonna wax my thread and finish up the fly here. And again, the physics of the wing is, if you were to just take a wing and you were to tie a loop around of thread around the base of the wing and pull it, the wing would squish in the middle, but then the fibers at the tips would flare out. What we're doing on a hook is by tying it to the hook, we're essentially squishing it from the top only. But the tendency to flare then is you're going to get the bottom can't move, but the top can, and so the wing's going to whoop like that. And so again, by pinching it here and manipulating the butt end of the wing like this, what we're doing is we're preventing that from opening up. We're preventing the wing from flaring, and we're instead applying the force kind of more at a diagonal. If you were to look at like the uncompressed wing, the actual compression force is going diagonally through the wing. One of these days, I will sit down with my chalkboard and we'll do a whole thing. But that's essentially the physics behind it, and why when I pinch, I'm lifting up these butts. I'm trying to direct the thread into that diagonal force, even though it's occurring here on the hook. And if in case you can't hear it, we have the local ice cream truck sitting right outside my window. Sitting up here on where we are, I can see into the truck. I am not tempted to buy anything from it. Just saying. Okay, so with the wax thread, I'm just going to take 2 turns just to secure it, and then I'm going to trim the butt ends. You never want to try to trim the butt ends all at once. Trim them as you go. Try to trim them at an angle. All the usual stuff. We'll return the thread back to the wing tying point, because here we'll finish off the fly with the jungle cock and the topping. Oh, jungle cock. Here we are. This neck's getting a little bit picked over. It's currently the only one that I have going, so I think I'm going to need to go out and find another one soon. I'm kind of getting low on choices in terms of size of eyes here. And I know there are many different ways to repair split eyes. I'm not a huge fan of manipulating materials if I can help it. Kind of in the similar idea that for like the straightened crests, I avoid using straightened crests if I can, because you know if the fly that I tie for somebody for commission, or they purchase a fly and it ends up in a high humidity area, I don't want that crest to change, or I want that crest to change as little as possible. Um, Although a repaired jungle cockeye is probably not going to split, I try not to use materials that I need to manipulate a whole bunch, just for a similar kind of reason. If it ends up in a place where it gets beaten around or whatever, I don't want the jungle cockeye to split again. That does make me a little bit picky, and it doesn't mean I end up with a bunch of split eyes on a neck. But those split eyes are good for a lot of things. I use split eyes for mixed wings because I think that split eye looks um, kind of the part in a mixed wing. They're great for fishing flies, which use a lot of jungle cock eyes and aren't using. So like jungle cock eyes are sometimes used in fishing flies to represent real eyes. I don't know why they don't really look the part, but there you are. Oh my gosh, you guys can hear that, right? Comes by every day, different times. So today I feel like it's late, but it plays the same tune. Go away. My parents seem to remember that we had a ice cream truck, and we did. We had an ice cream truck go through the neighborhood as a kid. Whoops, wrong side. Um, we had an ice cream truck that went through the neighborhood growing up as a kid. Um, they seem to remember that we were allowed to actually buy stuff out of it. I think I can only remember like twice, two times that we were ever allowed to buy things from the ice cream truck. My parents seem to think they were a lot more indulgent than I seem to remember them being. That's probably true of every kid. Okay. Right. And crest. So just to remove these buttons, I'm going to take a turn of wax thread to secure them, trim them. The problem that I'm having, I had plenty of crests, but I had picked one out because it matched. So the tail that I used is a little bit pale. I picked out a similarly pale crest, but now I can't seem to find it in the bin. Oh man. So now that one. I think it's this one. All right. Anyway, we'll go with this one. So I think that looks good. All right. Let's tie it down. Okay. And we'll finish it there. Again, nothing special about this wing here, so we'll call it a day. So yeah, so that is the Smith by Turnbull for the River Tay, as described in Kelson. Very long name. Pretty straightforward fly. I think we can all agree. Quite attractive. I like the segmented body look for sure. Um, let's see. So um, next week, unfortunately, we will be attending a family funeral. So it's local, fortunately. But there will be no stream next week. Uh, then I believe the next stream will actually be probably the 10th, which is Saturday. So the streams will be moving to Saturday um, from here on out, unless I say otherwise. Um, so yeah, so I have my weekends back. I'm no longer working over the weekends because of the new position at work. Um, so uh, so yeah, so stream will be moving to Saturday primarily, and so that'll be nice. Hopefully, because of that, probably a little bit earlier in the day as well. Instead of like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, probably moving to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's see, and yeah. Other than that, thanks for hanging out today. And again, as always, if you're new to this stream, if you just joined in the middle, check out my Instagram, justwondering.brad on Instagram. And if you want to purchase any of the flies that you see me tie on the stream, Studio1213 on Etsy. Thanks for hanging out. Hope everybody has a good week. 4th of July weekend next week. As I said, no stream. And catch you all on the next stream. Cheers.